pretty easy.
All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Managing Partners Podcast. My name is Kevin Daisey, and I'll be your host, as always. Today, I have an awesome guest that's going to teach us about some skills you need to have as an attorney, no matter what level you're on. So I'm excited for Kevin Shulman to join us today and tell us about his background. Kevin, welcome to the show.
Good to be here.
And it's always good to have another Kevin on the show.
Absolutely. Can't have too many.
You never have too many Kevins. So maybe I'll get
Indeed.
Kevin Costner on here next.
There you go.
We'll see what we can do. Well, Kevin, we've gotten to chat a few times before, and we focus on a lot of the same things as far as how we grow our firms and how we help others. But wanted to have you tell us your background, where you come from, what you do, and how you help attorneys specifically.
Fair enough. So I'll try to take the background part and make it short and not start by, I was born in a log cabin, but I actually had two past lives. I taught undergraduate psychology for a couple of years back in the olden days of the 70s and the 80s. And then I realized that I had two choices in life. You can either teach or you can make a living, and they're mutually exclusive. So I decided to go into business, and it'll sound a bit like a non sequitur, but I opened a steel company, and I was in the steel industry for a dozen years. And for various reasons decided to get out of that and wasn't sure what to do next. And I ended up meeting a guy named David Sandler, and the rest, as they say, is history. I met him, and it was kind of like sparks flew, right? And I knew that day that I'd be involved with him because it was my teaching background, my sales background, my management background, all put into one. And that was 31 years ago now. It's amazing how that happened, that I've been doing sales and client development training. And now, quite frankly, I teach and make a living. And that's as good as it gets. And so love what I do and love helping people. And to make it relevant to this show, the really fun niche for us, probably about, and it's been growing steadily the last few years, is the so-called professions, the attorneys, accountants, architects, and engineers. And the largest of those is the attorneys, of course, and doing a lot of work with attorneys and helping them grow their practice.
Excellent. And well, so we're talking about the dreaded S word, which for those attorneys and professional service, like you mentioned, sales is a word they don't like to use. And actually, a lot of people don't like to use. They think it's, title anyone something other than that. Just don't use the word sales.
You don't remember the last time you saw someone's business card and under their name, it just said sales.
No,
right? It's always account executive or Northeast regional manager or whatever. And certainly you have never in your life seen that on the card of an attorney.
Definitely not.
And I always say that they all went to law school to avoid being in sales in the first place. And then one of two things happens. Either they hang out a shingle on their own, and when the phone doesn't start ringing of its own accord after the first couple of weeks, they realize they got a sales gig, or they go working for a firm and they work 100 and 200 hour weeks thinking they're on partner track. And it's usually somewhere around being a third year or a fourth year when it's kind of too late to leave and start over, when someone comes and whispers in their ear and says, if you ever want to make partner, better start bringing in some clients. And that's the day they realize they got a sales gig.
No, that's a good point. And just before we could dive into it a little deeper, you can check out Kevin at weexpectsuccess.com. So if you're on audio, it's weexpectsuccess.com. You can check him out there. And also Kevin's an author, wrote a book. We'll get into that in just a bit. I'll share that with you so you can pick up a copy if you need to, and we'll get into that as well. But so Kevin, back to your point. I mean, even when they realize they have a sales gig, don't think they accept that or embrace it. Really,
You
they're like,
know,
well, I got to do something, but they're still like, but I'm not in sales.
I've got to
Not
do
really.
some
Not really. I'm an attorney.
marketing.
Marketing, marketing is a much easier.
Marketing's an easier word.
Yeah, business development. I'm just an attorney doing good work and helping people. I don't, I don't sell. I don't advertise. I hear that quite often.
They'll do a few things. They'll do some. They might be on LinkedIn. They might do some blogging. They might have a newsletter. And the big thing that they do is they'll do some networking. And networking is warmer and fuzzier than selling. It feels better.
Yeah.
And what I always say is most of them think they're networking, and what they're doing is not working. They're going to events, they're having a drink or two, talking to some friends, coming home and thinking that they were at work. And that's a lot of things, but that's not work.
Sure. Well, here's the thing for me. If you believe in your product or service, in this case, service, as an attorney, that what you do, you believe in, you believe it helps people, and it's going to help them have a better situation or life, depending on what type of practice area you're in, then you're doing everyone a disservice by not getting more customers to help. They're out there needing the help. Whether or not they find you or connect with you is the only differentiator. So
I agree. By the way, you used a horrible word. You called them customers instead of clients. Of course, they're clients. They're not customers. God forbid we should use that word. But and you're totally right. The problem is, well, they believe that what they've got is good stuff. They believe, or at least they want to believe, that they're better than their other colleagues in the same field. The problem is they have no clue as how to differentiate themselves from someone else.
Yeah, I mean, I talk to attorneys all the time. It's you can see the passion that they have. That we do marketing, of course, so we say, oh yeah, these people show up, over top you or in Google, or they just show up everywhere in the market, whatever it might be. And like, oh yeah, but we're better than them, and they don't do this, and they just, so they think they're better, or they believe they're better, which is fine. But hey, you don't show up, or you're not doing enough to have anyone even recognize that you're in the market. So no one's going to be able to see that passion or get the experience that you say you can take them through, because you don't embrace the sales of the marketing and you want to stay away from it.
It's interesting. I'll ask them. I'll be talking to one firm, call them X, Y, and Z, and another firm will call them A, B, and C, the partner names, of course. Or Dewey, Cheatham, and Howe, or however, whatever jokes we want to use. And I'll say, okay, are you better than your competition, the other one? And X, Y, and Z says, oh, we're a lot better than they are. And I'll say, okay, why are you better? Well, first of all, we're full service. We do really great. I mean, we really service our clients. I mean, it's amazing how well we service our clients, and we're fairly priced in the marketplace, and blah, blah, blah. Now, if I go to the other firm and I say, how are you better than XYZ? They say, oh, we're a lot better because we're full service. And because we're so big on service and we do this, they all sound, if you'll excuse me, like the same crap. They have no clue how to differentiate. And the interesting thing is, once they get a potential client in their office, particularly if it's an individual or a very small firm, if they can get you in their office, they're 90+% closers. They get all the business. They just can't get anybody in their office.
Yeah.
And when it's competitive, if they're going after a big company to be their attorney, to be their counsel, and the other company is looking at 3, 4, 5 firms, they don't have a clue as to how to win it. They'll go and they'll give a presentation. They'll have a great PowerPoint, but they have no clues how to get the business. And in fact, here's the scary part. I don't even know how this is possible. Most of them are going up 1 out of 3 in those kind of presentations. Every firm I've spoken to wins less than a third.
Wow.
Someone's winning more than a third. I haven't met him yet, but
Someone's
someone's winning more. So
No, I mean, it's a good point. I mean, just thinking about how many, clients I have, and then just attorneys that I've had on the show, almost 300
Yep.
or more. And they all want to tell their story and talk about their firm and how, what they've done to be successful and why they're different. And what a lot of what you said is very similar to what most of them say. We're full service. We have someone that's going to respond right away, and all the different things. But it's all very similar. There's not many out there. Now, there's been some on my show that have just done amazing things.
But out of hundreds, I'd be willing to bet it's a fairly small percentage.
Absolutely, it sure is.
And you've got a large enough sample size for it to be meaningful.
And then I see some firms too. I'm all about growth and growing and continue to grow, so that you can create opportunities for associates and partners and staff,
Mhm.
and continue to grow, so everyone can fit their dreams and plans into that business. Right. That's our model here.
Mhm.
But I do have some. I know some attorneys that is one attorney or two attorneys, and they use that as well. That's why we're different, because you're going to talk to an actual attorney. You won't just get a paralegal or whatever. But that's their differentiator. But they stay very small. They're not growing, and
That's a differentiator, except for one thing. What attorney is going to, when they're out, quote unquote, marketing, is going to say, let me tell you about our firm. We only let you talk to the low level people. We only let you talk to a paralegal. You're never going to talk to the real attorney. Nobody's going to say that.
No.
Never happens.
No.
It just never happens. And the other, kind of a related issue is they don't know how to identify other attorneys who might be good at it. So the partnership doesn't know how to identify who in the ranks that thinks they're on partner track, because they all think they're on partner track. They don't know how to identify which ones actually can grow the firm and can bring in business. And when they're looking to bring junior people in, even when they're recruiting to get people out of school, they don't know how to screen for who can do business development, who's got that skill set. And there are tools that you can use to do that, but they don't have a clue.
Yeah, more focused on where they go to school, or do we think they're going to be a good attorney?
And the truth is, law schools are spitting out an awful lot of good attorneys on a very regular basis. And good attorneys are, everybody thinks they're great, but quite frankly, good attorneys are a dime a dozen. I don't mean that to be nasty and to offend any attorneys, but there's truth in that. But attorneys that know how to grow a practice, they're rare.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, that's something to think about right there. Everyone listening, is how to identify new talent. That's not just a good lawyer. Of course, they're gonna have a lot to learn anyway if they're junior or just coming out of school. So you're gonna have to teach and groom them anyway to be a good lawyer. But do they have the traits and things you're looking for, that they can actually grow the practice and bring in business? Good question.
Indeed. And the other thing that's interesting is when you ask attorneys how they grow their business, they invariably say by word of mouth, meaning referrals.
Never heard that one before, Kevin.
No, never. But then I asked the logical question, which is, how many referrals are you averaging per client per year? And I always got a blank stare back, because nobody is tracking that. And oh, by the way, if you're listening, you should be tracking that. And they're afraid to ask. They think it sounds salesy to ask. They think it sounds makes them feel needy. But the truth is, if they were just a little bit okay at it, not great, a little bit, and because here's what I know: 98% of attorneys, the answer to that question of how many referrals are you averaging per client per year, the answer is a number between 0 and 1, closer to 0. And I always say, just imagine if the answer to that question was one, and you average just one good referral per client per year, and you were a crappy closer and only got 1 out of 4. Now, with referrals, you should do better, but if you only got
Should
one
do
out
better.
of 4, then your practice would be growing 25% year over year forever. And you would never be having, first of all, you'd never be listening to this podcast. You'd never have to go to a networking event. You'd never have to do anything that was business development. You'd never have to hire a marketing person. You'd never have to write blogs or do any of that. If that was the only skill you developed was that, you could grow your practice 25% year over year forever. And how many attorneys do you know that are doing that?
Not many. I know of a few.
A few.
They have at least shared some process with me. How real and effective it is, I don't know, but yeah, it's a darn good point. That's something I need to even work on with my own business here, right?
Mhm.
So I do have tasking and things to hit clients at certain points that I know
Right.
it's the best time I can ask them for a referral. And it always leads to referrals when I ask. So
Referral generation ends up being, networking skills and referral generation end up being the two biggest things that they think they need from me.
well, think about, what it takes to get a new client in the door, whether that's through word of mouth or marketing or referral from a friend or whatever. To get that client in the door, whatever it took to get them there, to harness that relationship, and they could be a client over and over again. Maybe it depends on what your practice area is, but who do they know? It's easier to go to them than to try to talk to some random person at a networking event you have no clue what they want. They don't know who you are.
Mhm.
There's no relationship there. That's a lot harder to me. You have someone that's already put trust. If you did a good job for them, there's no reason why they shouldn't try to give you a referral, and you shouldn't feel bad about asking.
And there's no reason to feel bad. But that's, we always talk about the 3 areas that we have to work on in training. We call them behavior, attitude, and technique. And everybody comes to us for technique. What's the magic words? What do I say when I'm out networking? What's the magic bullet? How do I get them? What do I say to get them to give me referrals? All of that.
Give me a
And
script.
they're always surprised when we have to start by working on their heads. And when I say attitude, I don't mean good attitude or bad attitude. It's more about some internal beliefs that need to be worked on, getting comfortable putting on their sales hat and getting comfortable with the S word in the first place.
Yeah.
And because if I can get them more comfortable doing it, then I can get them to actually do more behavior, actually ask, actually go to more networking events, actually do some more stuff. And if I can get them to do more, then I can give them some words that are better than what they're using now.
No, that's a really good point. I actually have a friend of mine who does some coaching with us. He's actually been in a lot of sales background, sales training.
Mm-hmm.
He used to own his own sales training company, but he calls it head trash. So
that's what I call it.
There you go. So, your belief that this won't go well, or I can't sell, or no one wants me to sell to them, or it's just going to look bad on me for trying, and so you're like, I'm not doing it. There's got to be some other way. There's got to be the magic bullet, the secret word, or something like that.
It's always the crap between your ears that keeps you from being as successful as you could be or should be. Even the size of your average client is not a technical problem. It's a head problem. All right. If you do business law, corporate law, and even if contract law, whatever, if you're, there are a lot of people who know how to go out and bring in the solopreneur up to a $5-10 million company.
Yeah.
But they never bring in the $100 million company, and they sure never bring in the $500 million company. And they think that the process is different. The process is exactly the same. The only thing that's different is their belief that they deserve that kind of business.
Yeah, we don't deserve it, or they're just they're out of our reach. They're out of our reach.
It's just not it's not our expertise. It's not what we do. But the truth is, it is your expertise. The people that get that business are no smarter than you are. They're absolutely no smarter than you are. They just believe they deserve that business. And it's the same in every field.
Same as mine.
It's absolutely the same in every field. You're in the marketing world. You bring in a certain size client. You're not bringing in the $1 billion client.
Yeah.
Now, it's easy to say, well, I don't go after them. Okay, but why not?
Why not?
And the truth is, in that case, the $1 billion client for the marketing company, that's a whole other business. That's a very different business. But we all get in comfort zones.
No, you're spot on.
We all get in comfort zones, and we even might recognize that we're in a comfort zone, but very few people stop and say, okay, why am I in that comfort zone, and what do I have to do to break out of it? You know, they say things like break through your glass ceiling, break out of your comfort zone, but they never tell you why you're in it in the first place, and you need to figure that out first, and certainly not what you have to do in order to break out.
Yeah, I mean, I think you get, all of us, we get comfortable with what we have experience in, and you fall back to that. So I remember when I started my own, with this firm, and when we were starting out, I remember we were in, my biggest client was maybe $2,000 a month,
right? And
then we got a client for $4,500 a month, and we were like, whoa, that's insane. And then, a year later, it's like, okay, now we have $15,000 and $20,000 a month clients.
Exactly.
And then we're talking to ones that are $100,000 a month, and it's like, okay, but you do exactly what you're saying. You kind of tell yourself, that's too big for us. That's probably something we can't handle. That's maybe where we shouldn't be. And so you talk yourself out of it.
You have to start with small clients to be able to get comfortable enough to go call on mid-sized clients. And you have to get comfortable there before you're going to start bringing in the larger clients.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, I think, we all go through it, and it happens all the time. And right now I would probably say, yeah, if someone's like, hey, we got 500,000 a month to spend with you, I'd be like, holy smokes, that's ridiculous.
But I
guess, to shorten that timeline, right, is, I think, important too, because you have to kind of go through that process and, hey, can we handle that client? And if we do, what do we need to handle that kind of client? And then let's go after them. But to shorten that time frame from like a decade down to just a few years to the most, right?
Exactly. And sometimes the way to do that is to start with goal setting. Because that's something else that most attorneys don't practice.
Most people don't, and this is something that I actually have I got a power list right here that I try to fill out every day. My business partner is really spot on with this. But if you go to some folks, or if you have to go to your employees, and what are your goals? What's your personal, professional, financial goals? I don't have any, or they feel like they're almost like not deserving to have those kinds of things. And it's like, no, you have to, let's try to help you set these. Like, what are they? What do you want to do?
Yeah. And what we know is it's just factual. There's a mountain of data that says people who are what we call active goal setters are more successful than people who are not. And what's interesting is the biggest mistake people make is, the one biggest mistake is not putting them down on paper, right? You have to have written goals. That's number one. But the biggest mistake people make when they even get into the process of goal setting is they make the mistake of starting with their business goals. I want to make X thousands or $100,000 more next year. I want to make X percent more. And the problem is those are just numbers, and numbers in and of themselves are usually not very motivating. Last year, shortly after, right now we're in the heart of goal setting season, right? It's from November through January's goal setting season. Nobody thinks there's a season, but there is. And last year, it was, I think, February or March, I ran into an old client. and happened to not be an attorney, but doesn't matter for the story. And I said, how's business? He said, great. I said, how are you going to do this year? He said, we are totally committed to 20% growth this year. And I said, that's great. And then I said, what happens if you only grow 15%? He goes, oh, 15 would be great. We'd be happy with 15. So with one question, he gave up 25% of his goal.
Yeah.
Which was just insane. So the right way to practice goal setting is start with your personal goals. And yes, financial and business goals, but everything from health and fitness goals to spiritual goals to family goals and every area of your life. And I'm a collector. I have wine goals, and I'll joke that my wife has shoe goals, and all of that's important because once you can define what you want your life and lifestyle to look like a year from now, 5 years from now, and in retirement, right? Long-term, short-term, and retirement goals. Then stop and say, what do I need my practice to do to give me that lifestyle?
A lot more motivating when you have
And
all these
now
things
it's more
behind it.
motivating. Now I know if I make an extra X $1,000, or even more simply, I'll break it down. If I get 3 more clients this year, then I know I can put a down payment on that vacation house. That's motivating. That'll get me off my sorry butt and start working for it. But when it's just a number, it's not quite as motivating.
That's a good point. I think it's easy to just go towards something that's vague or not. You can't really put your mind around what it would mean to you.
Exactly.
And so I think having that makes a lot of sense. And before we go too much further, Kevin's very good at goal setting, so much so that he wrote the book, which is up here on your screen, Goal Setting Boot Camp. You can find this book online on Amazon or on his website as well. But it's Goal Setting Boot Camp.
I'll interrupt. It's actually cheaper on Amazon. Go to Amazon. And the one thing I must encourage people, do not get the Kindle version. Get it in hard copy. Spend the extra $3, get it in hard copy, because there's actually exercises in the book that need you to write it. That I actually have to. One of the first things I did in the first few pages of the book, I gave people permission to write in the book. Right? Mom always told you, and your teachers told you never write in a book. But there's a bunch of exercises that it really is better to put pen to paper than to just think it through.
Love it. Okay, good tip. So Goal Setting Boot Camp, go check that out. And as we're talking about goal setting here, which I think is really important. And the thing is, you want to sell more, you want to bring in more clients, having goals and setting those goals and tracking those goals is going to be a massive help. And yeah, as we're recording this, it's November of 23. And I think most people wake up on January 2nd and go, man, I guess I better start doing something so that I can have a better year than I did last year. And they're already behind the 8 ball.
Indeed.
So,
and so it's obviously something I'm passionate about, and I can talk about goal setting for the next 2 hours, but I don't think we've got that kind of time.
We can probably have you back on, but just for to help the audience that's listening right now, when this comes out, if you're listening right this second, what are some, what's a few tips around goal setting if someone's listening right now before they get your book? What's some things they can do to get on the right track?
First thing to do is get out your calendar and block some time to do it. That's the very first step. Otherwise, you never do it. And I always say it's a really good thing to do with your spouse or significant other. And if you don't have one of those, you can do it with a close friend. It's a great thing to do, with a bottle of wine on a snowy afternoon or a snowy evening, and start with your personal goals. Short term, typically anything up to a year. Long term, up to about 5 years, and retirement goals. And even if you just got out of law school yesterday, you want to have retirement goals. If you don't start working on it now, you'll find yourself having a problem 20 years from now.
Okay, good tips. I like involving someone else, and I'm married. My wife, I'm actually trying to plan another session soon, but, to sit down and have, goals for the family and ourselves and what are we trying to accomplish next year and beyond. But, the mind's a powerful thing. Think and Grow Rich, great book. I just finished that
Absolutely.
again. It's all about, repeating and going back to what you said you wanted to accomplish. And, if you write this stuff down and have goals and you track it and write it down every day, you're just wiring yourself to move in those right directions.
That's how you hardwire yourself to start accomplishing things on a regular basis. And you start noticing opportunities that you wouldn't notice before.
It is. It's like, so I have 2 vacation properties that are Airbnbs. And so we got the first one and I put a goal that I was going to have 2 up and running by a certain time period. And I didn't have the time. I had 2, boom. But I was looking and I was actively, and I see other opportunities. But it's just one small thing, but it's, did it a lot faster than my goal was. But if I just kind of randomly said it to you one time, yeah, my goal is to own a vacation house one day. Unlikely that
one day it never comes.
It's not going to ever come unless you win the lottery or something.
I'll give you another one. You have to have some accountability. And so there's one thing to say, I'm going to buy a new car next year. It's another thing to tell your next door neighbor that by Christmas, there's going to be a new Mercedes in your driveway. It's a totally different thing. It puts a different level of pressure on you to make sure that you accomplish it.
You don't want to walk out of the trash cans on January 1st and be like, yeah, I couldn't get it.
You got it. Exactly that. Exactly that.
That's a good one right there. I like that one.
So I'm a big believer in accountability. Accountability and responsibility are 2 words that have gotten lost.
Well, think about, and then we'll transition to wrap up. But, I've run my own company, or if you're looking, talking to a managing partner or an owner of a law firm, are they accountable? Who are they accountable to? Right. If you're at the top, are you, do you have someone to hold you accountable? Right?
I recommend to all my clients that they have an accountability partner. It's vital. It's vital. My accountability partner, we speak every Tuesday morning at 6:30 in the morning, typically for about a half hour, but sometimes that goes for 45 or an hour. Sure. And it basically starts with, hey, last week you said you were going to do A, B, C, D, and E. Did you do all that? And if not, why the hell not?
Yeah, love it.
And it just starts with that. The conversation starts with that. And our one agreement is that we'll never lie to each other. And I'd say 80% of what we talk about is business related, 20% is personal. He knows more about my business than anybody on the planet, including my office manager, including my spouse. And quite frankly, that's the way it should be. He is, and he holds my feet to the fire, and I get more stuff done because I have someone to be accountable to.
I like it. Yeah. So if you're a managing partner or someone that you feel like you're at the top, get you an accountability partner. Maybe it's someone else in the firm. Maybe it's another partner. Maybe it's someone completely different. Maybe it's someone outside the firm, a friend, a mentor.
Probably should be someone outside the firm.
Sure. Okay.
Probably should be someone outside the firm. You don't want it to be someone you report to, because that'll prevent you from being totally honest. And if you're at the top, you don't want it to be someone who's reporting to you.
Got it. Good tips.
Who probably shouldn't be privy to all that information.
So yeah, probably good to find like a good business colleague. Maybe they work in a different kind of business.
Could be a colleague from another firm, absolutely, that you're comfortable with. My accountability partner happens to be in the same industry. We don't. We're not competitors. We're about 1,000 miles apart, so we're in no way competitors. So we're happy to help each other. I'm happy to help him build his practice.
Excellent.
In fact, I love when I can help him do that. Nothing makes me feel better than that.
That's awesome. Well, all good tips. I appreciate you sharing that. And yeah, just kind of a recap here. Sales is something you got to get comfortable with. If you're an attorney trying to grow the business, grow the firm, that's something you need to be comfortable with. You need to have a process for referrals and asking your clients for referrals. I think a lot of attorneys just fall into, well, other attorneys refer me.
That's great.
That's great, but
That's
build
great,
a process and a system.
That's great, but
yeah, and you can set goals. Set those goals around that as well. But I love what you said about goals. Is and I ask attorneys this all the time if they're becoming clients of ours, what is your growth goals? And they just throw out, I'd like to grow 10% every year, or I'd like to. But really tying, I think those personal things, tangible, or those things that you're looking to acquire or do or travel, whatever it may be, that is going to drive you to actually meet that goal versus some number that you can easily change once you realize you're not hitting that number.
Indeed.
Well, great tips, Kevin. I appreciate it. Is there anything else you'd like to share before we roll?
Kevin, this was great. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. If anybody wants to contact me, my email address is kevin@weexpectsuccess.com. And anybody wants to contact me, happy to. What I'll tell them is they'll at least get some response, and they'll get it pretty promptly.
Yes, I've been right with Kevin. I was actually referred to Kevin by another gentleman who's actually in the legal field and helps coach and help grow law firms in the UK. Refer me to Kevin because of his expertise, and very responsive.
And that would be John, who, if you haven't had him on, you should have him on at least twice.
Yeah, John McCarthy's actually come on the show, but I got so many good guests like John and you that I could just have so many conversations with on the show, and that probably will happen. So I appreciate the referrals and looking for good guests all the time. Anyone listening, managing partner, if you've not been on the show and you feel you can bring some heat, some fire, some knowledge, reach out. I'd love to have you on. You can always LinkedIn me, Kevin Daisey on LinkedIn. Fastest, easiest way to get a hold of me. And we'll try to get you on the show. So, Kevin, I thank you so much for sharing your knowledge. Everyone check out his book and connect with him if you can. And
this was a total pleasure. I've enjoyed it, and I'll come back anytime.
Excellent. Well, next time we can have you play the piano that I see in the background over there.
There you go. And if you buy into that, have I got a deal for you?
All right, everyone. Well, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the Managed Partners Podcast. We'll see you soon. Get out there, get after it, set those goals, and we'll talk to you soon. Kevin, I'll see you backstage. Everyone else, have a great day.
Take care.